Hello and welcome to episode number 4. Is it number 4, Luke?
I think so.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Number 4 of the Independent Dealer Podcast. Today we are going to be chatting about hiring, firing, best practices. What else, Luke?
Just about how dealers should operate when it comes to employees and what you should expect from your employees and how to make your company better through employees.
All right, here we go. So we're going to talk to Luke today. We're going to chat a bit about some of the hiring, firing, retaining key employees. Let's get right into it, Luke. Tell me this. Let's start at the beginning. When you're needing someone at your lot, where do you go to? What would you recommend us dealers go to find a good qualified employee? Now, whether that's salesmen, service techs, lot techs, managers, clerks, where have you found success?
Number one, get your wife involved. That's what I do because she is really good at that. She has a way when she interviews somebody that really I don't know brings out who they are. But that's after that process of finding. But
Now, does she work at your lot? Is she
she
there?
does. She sits right in front of me. We share an office together.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she's here part time. She's not here all the time, but she's kind of our HR person. But she had her own business, and to me maybe, and I don't know, but women have a little better knack of figuring out who to hire and who to interview. So I think having someone on staff that has a little bit of experience in that can be very helpful. Now, if you're not big enough for that, you kind of have to play it by ear. So what we do and what we found when I did it alone, and that's some of the first people we ever hired was when I hired them myself. We used Craigslist. And I think that was maybe 8-9 years ago. That was what people did, and Craigslist was good. And I'm not saying you still can't find people on Craigslist, but that's not what we use. What we found is the best bang for the buck is Indeed.
Okay.
That's probably the only place I would post if and we keep job listings on there all the time. So that's where I go.
Okay, so you're continually you don't pay for it, but you leave the listing up there regardless, and just kind of can slowly collect resumes.
We do, and we cut it off and cut it on depending what kind of need we see coming up.
Right. Do you find that's the best place? Is it dependent on the type of job you're looking for, or do you feel like you're getting the whole spectrum of decent candidates through Indeed?
We see Indeed working from ground level detailers up to comptrollers.
Okay.
I don't think there's a separation on how Indeed reaches the people they reach. They bring qualified candidates. You do have to sift through, but they are there.
Would you recommend we pay to boost that, the sponsored ads in Indeed?
We do,
Okay.
but we don't spend a lot of money with Indeed. Maybe if we're hiring somebody, I think it ends up maybe $60, $100 maybe.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like it's a lot of money that we spend doing that.
Have you tried doing Facebook's jobs postings?
Yeah, and I'm just not. I'm not a fan of it. Not to say that it won't work, but what I see, maybe what we've seen is that the more qualified candidates are actually with a job website like Indeed or the ones out there, maybe ZipRecruiter, those type of things.
Yeah, I think two interesting things I've found through Indeed, I definitely get more applicants. I'm able to kind of use some of the questions to screen them a little bit better. If I need someone who's a Spanish speaker or some other qualification through Facebook, what I do like is it links to their profile. So I can very quickly scan through their profile, kind of see who they are, what they're about, see if they're going to be a fit for our culture kind of right off the bat. I find myself, even in Indeed, I copy and paste their name into Facebook to try to find a profile so that I can kind of, hey, is this the look of a salesman that I want at my dealership, or does this person, are their postings kind of in line with, our culture?
For sure. I mean, we do the same thing. If we find a candidate we like, by their resume, the first thing we do is go to Facebook to verify who they are. Everybody kind of has an idea of what their culture is and the customers they're serving.
Hmm.
Um, the none of us should discriminate about the way anyone looks.
Of course.
But I think more than anything, is that customer, I mean, is that potential candidate, are they posting things that I don't want around my dealership? I think that is number one. And so
Hmm.
we use Facebook for that off the bat. I mean, that really matters to us.
Now, to talk to me about this, I found that unfortunately, people who are looking for a job or who are either unemployed are not always the best candidates. Have you found any success with what we'd say poaching from similar industries like Rent-A-Center or waitresses or other dealerships? Any success with that?
I've never done that. I'm not saying that can't happen. But I have found some dynamic people selling clothes, selling shoes,
Yeah,
uh, and also waitresses and waiters that I thought would be wonderful in our business.
yeah.
But maybe I've never decided to go about hiring those people. Um, but I think it can be successful. I do not hire people who have worked in other dealerships. Period. I don't hire
Hmm.
them.
Yeah.
So that's an automatic disqualification for me.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I could see the good, the bad side to getting someone who's, let's say, tainted by a way of thinking, or maybe a competitor that may still have loyalties to a previous dealership and, stuff like that. What I've found in hiring people who are currently employed but not wanting to work at a restaurant where it's nights and weekends and every
Sure.
holiday. So you can come in and say, hey, you're used to working on tips and not knowing what your income is. Come here and be a receptionist for us, and you're getting a solid hourly, and you're working days, and you got every major holiday off, and you know, seems
I
to be
definitely think,
for you.
yeah, I definitely think that's the way to go. When it comes to, I think wait staff would be wonderful when it comes to car sales and just a customer service type person. I think it's a great idea. I've never done it.
Yeah. So tell me this, Luke. What do you do inside your dealership to make sure that you've got the right people in the right seats? I mean, do you do a lot of internal moving around? Have you ever swapped people and said, hey, you were a real great lot tech. You got to come be a salesman now. It seems like the route to go, right?
Yeah, and I think it's twofold. One, if you hire someone and we like to call them dealership assistants,
Hmm.
and you pay them a very minimal wage to start, not minimum wage, of course, but I think probably ends up being like $10, $11 an hour, what we start them at.
Hmm.
Um, and they get in our dealership, and we see how they work and see how they feel. They're on a 90-day probation, and if they're dynamic and we love what they do, then at that point we decide to put them on a path to success, whether that's collections or sales or service, whatever that might be. We're gonna find a way to make that person go from making $25,000 a year to making $50,000 a year.
Hmm.
That's what we want to see. But I think also if you've got an employee that you don't think works good in a position, sometimes what we do is we go, well, let's move them to somewhere else, see if they fit there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta break loose. You get people just don't fit with you, and some people just don't like the work. So I think I think if you hire someone, you've got to have a plan for them then. And if they're not working out in that original position, sometimes you got to cut bait.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes it's you move them out of one position into another and find out that you thought they would have been a great as a salesman or an office manager or something, but then you come back around and say no, 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 that person's got to go. They're much better as a technician or a lot manager or dealer assistant. Yeah,
But if you like the person, you're right. Find a spot for them.
yeah,
That's number one. You got to like the person. The person's got to have work ethic. And if they have those two things, then we'll find a spot for them.
great. So now, how do you do it within that framework of finding someone? How do you get the best out of them? Do you find that most people that you have there, you're motivated by a good compensation plan, or do you find that non-monetary, you know, encouragement has been the best?
Um, each employee is different. Some employees are working for one thing, and that's to make money.
Yep.
And if you find that employee, you're going to have to pay them. You're going to have to build your compensation plan for that.
Hmm.
Um, some employees love to be told they're great, and that's fine. I love that too. Now you got to pay them as well.
Hmm.
Um, but I think what motivates people is themselves, and we do pay plans that fit the economy and that work well um, for our employees. We don't pay them as much as they can make, because every time they're doing something good, they're making us money.
Hmm.
So we like to give good time off, flexible hours. We like to pay them well, and we like to show them a path of improvement for themselves, and also we like to treat them like family.
Yeah.
We want them to be here because they like to be here, not because they're making money.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a different way of thinking. A lot of people read books like the E-Myth, and they think, oh yeah, it's I need to create policies and procedures and then get the lowest paid person just to follow the process. You know, the McDonald's philosophy of just getting someone in here and this is X and it leads to Y and then Z. And I don't think that works in the real world. I think you find a lot more hassle, and maybe there's two or three positions you might have at your dealership where you could get someone like that, and it's maybe a high turnover, low pay type situation. But I think finding the right person who's skilled and then compensating them uh, appropriately to keep them there, man, that saves a lot of brain damage from a dealer standpoint, doesn't it?
It does, and people get too tied to what they're paying an employee sometimes, instead of what is that employee worth to them,
Yeah.
and and how much have I spent to train this employee? Are they doing it right? That's what matters. It costs a lot of money to rehire a position.
Yep. And are you investing in the guy that's there? Hey, you don't like your collector's performance, but have you given them the right tools? Have you given them the training? Have you sent them to conferences and education to make sure they're the best possible version they can be? And if that's the case, then yeah, maybe you don't have the right collector, but anything short of that, you got to look at yourself, right?
Sure, and that's the main thing. Are you educating yourself on how to train your employees? And have you given them that training? Have you asked them to read a book here lately? Um, get them to read a book that you like, and sit down and talk with them about it, discuss it. Have weekly meetings. These are the things that you have to do for your employees to be what you want them to be.
Yeah, and that leads me to kind of my next point. I think, not only monetary compensation, but also giving them ownership. I think as a dealer, it's good for you to know how to do, I would say, almost everything at your car lot. There's not, I mean, with the exception of some heavy mechanical work, I can't say I know how to swap out engines, but I know how to do everything here, but I don't have to do it. And that's something that dealers need to really learn, is that delegation. That title clerk is not going to do the work the way you do it, but they're going to do it 65% of the way you did it. And that's good enough. And you got to let them go and let them have ownership over it and have some checks and balances. And, you don't want people getting carried away or being neglectful, but man, if you think that these people are going to care about your dealership as much as you do, you're crazy, man. No one's going to work as hard as you are or necessarily be as good as you are at it.
I 100% agree, Jeff. The one thing that we started doing that really made a difference was writing procedures and policy manuals, so that if you do like the way you do it. I'm a real stickler about it, how my pictures look on the internet. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, I took time to write a procedure manual for that person that takes the pictures. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that every picture on every car is exactly the same. It's in the same
Mm-hmm.
spot, at the same light, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, we can take that to collections. We can take that to title work. We can take it to whatever we need to do and write a manual, train that manual. Then people do it the way you did it. So that
Mm-hmm.
really helps.
Yeah. Where is the room in that, Luke, for flexibility? Where is that room to say, hey, you know what? I want my pictures on the website. Get them on there. And you say, hey, man, what, this one's at this angle, this one's dark, this one's light, this one's sideways, this one's upside down. Like, where's that balance between, you know, the policies and procedures manual and the, hey, I got the right guy in the right seat and he's going to do what's best for the dealership.
Well, I don't know if you're just asking about that one thing, but
In
with that
general,
one
yeah.
thing, to me, it's only one way to do it.
Okay.
And that's because in today's day and age, when it comes to buying and selling cars, the only way to do it is online. And
Mhm.
so you got to make that impression
I
because a
want
person,
everybody listening to go to Luke's website right now and make sure that his photos for his cars and his website is on point. P.S.
GodwinMotors.com, go check it out.
Who's your website provider?
Dealer Fire.
Dealer Fire. Okay. All right. So we're all going to go, we're going to bombard it and hopefully crash it today and make sure that he's got everything fine tuned on there.
Everything should look exactly the same.
Yeah, and so what I lead to the point of, yes, I mean, there are high level situations, and when you build policy and procedures manual, whether it's for your, your lot manager and your pictures or whoever's taking those, or your salesman and the way you want leads handled, and the way you want the sales process to go, you build those policies and procedures manual. Then of course within those guidelines, those employees have the ability to use their own personality.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and that's when it comes to taking a picture with a customer after the sale, I had a way I wanted it done,
Mm-hmm.
and that process has evolved a little bit because salespeople have taken an initiative to go. You know what? I do like the way you did it, but I have a different idea, and
Mm-hmm.
their idea is so much better than mine, and looks so much
Yeah.
more like we care. Of course, we move to that. And of course, every employee has an idea
Mm-hmm.
that will make your business better. And that's what we have to listen to that and find it so we can do that.
Yeah. So talk to me about this within that area of feedback loop. What do you have in place for your employees as far as you have periodic reviews? Is it kind of willy nilly when they come in and want to talk to you? How do you set that up within your dealership?
Oh, it's both. I talk to every employee every day. If I'm out of town, most of them will call me once or twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
The key employees, my salesman, I talk to my salesman probably 10 times a day.
Uh-huh.
But we do have reviews. My wife, Alexa, like I said, she's really involved in the HR part of it, but she makes sure those reviews get done. I don't like to do them.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you that, but I do understand how important they are. So we do 1 month after the hire, I think 90 days after the hire, and then it goes to 6 months and a year, I believe, is how those roll after that. They're very important. You need to give the employee feedback. If you're disappointed in the way an employee's performing, but you haven't told them you're disappointed, if you hadn't told them in the proper manner, then it's not your employee's fault. It's your fault.
Yeah.
And you have to. I mean, you've got to bear some responsibility. And if you hadn't reviewed and trained and told that employee what's up, then you're at fault because that employee didn't make it.
Yeah, it's on you. And that leads me to think, what we need to understand is that as a dealer, if you're a single man operation, 2-man operation, I get it. You're working tightly with the guy that's there. But when you start getting into the 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 50 employees, you're no longer a car dealer. You're a people manager. You're a firefighter. You're solving people's issues. And unless you hire that out to your wife or someone who is better at that, that needs to be your number one responsibility. If you're so busy behind your desk crunching numbers or, checking the books or selling cars that you're not giving your number one asset, which is your employees, the attention they need, reinforcement, encouragement, just a 30 minutes every couple of days to sit down and just gnaw your ear about what they like and what they don't like, man, you're going to neglect the number one thing, man. It's not our customers, man. And if you treat your customers better than your employees, you're going to be in a world of hurt, man, because people don't quite get that, man. The customer's not always right, man. My employees are always right. And even if they do something I completely disagree with and they treat a customer badly, in front of the customer, I'm going to back my employee, and we'll talk about it afterwards. But man, just keeping them happy and knowing that you've always got their back is key.
Yeah, you definitely have to have their back. But I'm a customer's always right type of person, and so we'll disagree a little bit on that. But
Okay.
but I don't think you you can't out your employee in front of a customer. Um, but there are there's definitely times where you need to make sure that your employee knows you're backing them, because you're right, they are a very important, cog in the wheel.
Help me understand that, Lou. Give me, I don't want to put you on the spot with this, but give me maybe a situation where you feel like the customer is always right.
So
Where it would supersede the philosophy of the employee is always right. Because I get it. I mean, yeah, the customer is number one when it comes to, maybe the outward appearance or the customer service. But when it comes down to like employee customer priority, where do you reconcile those two?
well, the customer pays all of our bills. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's lay that out there. But I've had in the past, not with a current collector, but a past collector of mine who could really get a customer riled up,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes the customer's right. In that collection spot where maybe they did tell the collector something, and the collector turned them off anyway, or something to this effect. So it can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that that's not always what happens, but let's say you've got someone in the service department that maybe just didn't talk to the customer properly or put them off.
Mm-hmm.
Then that happens, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes employees, or sometimes customer service people don't like to call people back because they don't want to hear what they're going to say. So
Yeah.
maybe they dropped the ball. So there are times where the customer wasn't taken care of well enough, and your employee dropped the ball.
Okay. So obviously there's situations, and like you're speaking to, maybe where you've got an employee that's not, generally speaking, isn't treating people right, not calling them back, not being courteous on the phone, not being friendly. Yeah, I definitely think in those situations where it's chronic or proven itself time and time again, yeah, you got an employee situation.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I look at it and I say, if I ever have a situation where I have one employee who is here that is at odds with the customer, I'm probably going to fire that customer before I fired that employee.
No,
Customer
man.
singular, yeah.
What I've done a lot of times is I've had to take over customers, because for whatever reason, whether
Mm-hmm.
my customer is a problem or my employee is a problem,
Mm-hmm.
um, they didn't see eye to eye.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening is I had to take over that customer,
Mm-hmm.
and typically in the end, that customer is fine. But who knows what
Yeah.
it was.
They
And
got
a lot of
sideways
times,
with an employee for some reason because of a tone of voice. Oh yeah, I've been there. And they might
yeah.
be the best employee and they handle 400 of their accounts perfectly, and this 401 just didn't mesh for some reason. Yeah, I've been there.
Oh yeah, so I've had to take over customers, and then after a while, after you really had a good rapport with this customer, you go, she's really not that bad. You might have caught her on a bad day. Would you like to start dealing with her again? And sometimes they're like, yeah. Sometimes they're like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, that's so funny. And that really comes down to, I always tell all of our employees, if you're ever dealing with a hot case or you're on the phone with a customer and things are escalating, just tell them to hold. Tell them to hold and transfer them to someone else, whether that's me or the manager or the salesman that sold the car or back to a collector. You know, Obviously, sometimes it's just the frontline person who answers the phone gets the heat. And oftentimes that's our collectors and our receptionists and our salesmen. And when they move on to the second person, they've already vented their frustrations. And now that next layer has the ability to say, yeah, you got it out, and now let's talk about a resolution. So yeah, there's definitely opportunity when you're, sometimes when that first level employee is being the punching bag, the next guy can step in with a little softer gloves and kind of solve the situation.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Where do
That
you
goes
find
back.
that in that situation with your relationship between your employees? I mean, I'm a very big fan, and I've often kind of touted the mantra that I'm not going to ask them to do something that I wouldn't do. And
Oh, for sure.
I've gotten into a little bit of an ethical conundrum as I've kind of stepped away from the dealership a little bit more to have more of a life balance with my family situation. I'm not here on Saturdays anymore. I don't come in on Saturdays anymore. That's a thing. And so sometimes it's hard for me to go to my employees and say, hey, well, actually, I do want you guys here on President's Day, or I do want you here on Black Friday. when I don't want to be there. So I'm starting to have this internal battle of, hey, I'm going to ask you guys to do things that I wouldn't do. Is that something you find, or where do you sit on that?
I do everything. So, I work probably 30 Saturdays a year.
Mhm.
I work Black Friday because there are certain, employees that won't, but there's a time that I go.
Mhm.
But I'm with you. I won't ask my employees to do. I work the most hours out of all of our employees. It's just the way
Yeah.
I am. So, but as we grow, I can see myself stepping further away and hopefully out of the picture at some point. But we're not there yet. We're
Mhm.
probably I think we're at 15, 16 employees right now.
Mhm.
But that's just the way it's just
Big
the way.
operation.
Yeah, it is, and it's a lot of people.
And on those lines of always knowing, hey, I'm not going to ask you to do something I'm not willing to do. And also, hey, I know how to do your job as good or better than you do because I'm an operator too. I'm not just sitting up here in my corner office, hanging out, counting my money. Like I can walk out there and sell a car. I can step into the back in detail. I can diagnose a trade in and put a number on something just as good as any of my guys can. Also letting them know, like, hey, I'm going to do what I say, and I'm going to say what I do, and
Yeah,
having that integrity that when they come to you and ask for something, or you promise something, or you're a man of your word, right?
more than anything, the owner operator or the manager has to be a person of integrity. Without that, employees will not do their job well. They will not care about it. They will not treat your employees well. Their manager has to be a man of integrity or a woman of integrity, and they have to demonstrate it. And you have to hire people with the same philosophy.
Yeah, that's so true, man. I think that's a great word of advice to leave on right there. I think that's a lot of good information we can all learn from hiring, how to get the right person in the right seat, and just, try to fine tune our operation. I think that's what we're all kind of continually doing, just, making everybody's life more enjoyable, making our dealership an enjoyable place to be, more profitable at the end of the day. Anything you want to leave us with, Luke?
Man, this is a great topic. There's plenty of books out there to read on this, and do your research. Task of Ford is a great book to read on this topic.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, um, Good to Great is a great book to read on this topic. But there's so much good things out there, so many resources that people need to reach out to and read and study and train your employees, because the better they are, the better you'll be.
Yep. Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us.